and welcome to Chatting with Sarahina, a space that we've opened for women to come together, talk about their issues, but look also for solutions to those issues. My name is Sarahina and I'm your host. Today we are actually dealing with the elephant in the room. You know, when you're talking about women, you can never run away from this topic, and we are not known to run away from things. Abuse. But we've got a different angle we want to look at abuse from this time, because we've heard abuse, we've talked about abuse. It is talked about a lot in media, but there is another aspect that we feel we haven't gone to as women.
The most dangerous abuser is the narcissist closest, or the one in me, by Sarahina Mayoyo.
Did you guys hear what that quote is talking about? The narcissist in me, the abuser in me. My book is called I Fell in Love with My Abuser But God, but what it really talks about is me, the abuser who perpetuates the abuse that I had gone through. But before I go too far, my co-host is going to join me, and we're actually going to look at this angle even broader. So stay tuned. Welcome home. I feel I should say this now. From now onwards, I'm going to say welcome home because this is your home.
Because I'm home.
Yes, but for those who might not know you, please can you introduce yourself?
Yes, definitely. My
Yeah.
name is Matsuho Njumbuka. I'm part of the furniture here. I'm a mother of 3 beautiful children, and I'm a sister, I'm a daughter, I'm also a content producer for a certain company somewhere, and I'm very excited to be here. Very excited about the topic.
Yeah.
Scary.
Yeah, I think what makes it scary is because, you know, even society has made it the elephant in the room. Also because as a society, we've never actually talked about it as much as we are now.
Yes.
And we're going to abuse. And as I said earlier, you know, Uguti, I think there's no way you can talk about women issues
And not mention abuse.
and fly through, you know, without going to
Yes,
abuse.
But this type of this angle that we're taking, though, that's
Yeah.
what scares me.
Yeah.
But let me let you.
Okay. So we are looking at the narcissist in me,
In me.
but also the narcissist close by, you know, because it's easier to point out there, you know, it's easier when somebody is a bit distant,
blame
you know,
to-
if it's the neighbor, if it's somebody in the streets that you don't know, if it's a stranger, if even when it's an uncle, you know, but there are certain people in our lives that can never be abusers. And even if they do abuse us, we can never
be
actually
labeled
see
as
it
abusers.
as abuse, because those people, they can never wear the abuse mask. And we are those people, first of all. I can never be my own abuser. You know, we've never looked at ourselves as people who could abuse ourselves. But also, there are those characters in our lives that could never. And I mean, let me jump in straight out. You know, I'm looking at a mother-daughter relationship, and I'm looking at, let's give it a scenario. Let's say this, it's a family. It's a mother, it's a father, it's a child. And, you know, the child grows up, the father beats the mother. The father is like the nastiest person in the world. And the child grows older. For that child, it actually becomes automatic and easier for every bad thing in their lives to be the
Directed at
father's,
the father.
the father is the one to blame. But even if the mother also abuses her, she can never put the mother in the abuse state, because the mother has always been a victim. She's always seen the mother as a victim. She's always been the one to say, I want to protect my mom, to the point where you protect somebody who abuses you now.
Do you know where that comes from?
Okay.
It comes from the point where what you were saying the other day, that we weigh abuse and we weigh pain.
Yeah.
We have the tendency to say, just because you were sexually abused,
Me, I was just
verbally abused.
Yeah.
So, you know, people take abuse as something that's concrete, that you can point it and that you can,
Yeah.
you know. So these people that we're talking about today are the people that go whose abuse goes unnoticed.
Yeah.
The things that they say,
Mm-hmm.
the way they treat you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for instance, a typical example in this scenario that you're giving, if the mother, because she was abused by the
Father.
father, and then you find that the father treats the daughter well,
Better.
you find that the mother now automatically would hate the daughter,
Yes.
right? Or maybe compete with the daughter.
Yes. Have a complex.
Have a
with the-
complex
Yeah.
against the daughter.
Mhm.
That's abuse. That's
That's
a form of
abuse.
abuse, because now the things that she says, the way she acts towards the
Yeah.
daughter, that is abuse.
And you can actually even take it further. And you say that a mother can be physically abusive. So not just those
yes,
subtle ones.
yes, yes.
A mother can be blatantly abusive, but your brain
Cannot
literally
allow her
blocks
to be an
you
abuser.
seeing. There are so many, and for me, this is a reality because I deal with so many women who've got mommy issues now that are coming up. Because there are so many mothers who are narcissists. And because of the abuse they've gone through, they have narcissistic tendencies. And the closest person they can actually
Take it
express
out on.
that narcissism is the daughter. Because remember, the
know-
daughter is like the first best friend as well.
My friend, I have a friend, a very good friend of mine, who once said to me, her mother is a narcissist. And I remember thinking, that's
Your mom.
possible. You're overreacting. And as I grew closer to her and I spent more time with her, I realized that she had traits that I didn't necessarily like. Like, she had random outbursts,
Yeah.
mean outbursts that I didn't understand, that it would come out of nowhere.
Of course.
You know, Umdu would just shout at you for,
Yep.
and I'll be like, oh, okay. But at the back of my mind, I always thought, she's going through something.
going
I just
through-
don't know what it is.
That's exactly it. You are able to excuse
Yes,
it
I would excuse
for
it.
this particular abuser. So that's why I'm saying it's easier for you to say, Dad was a dog because he beat my mom, because he did this, because he did that. But when
But
it comes
this
to
one-
you seeing if mom was an abuser, you're like, no, my
There's
mom
no
was going through
way.
something. Can you imagine what she was going through? Because we literally put these people in a safe zone, right? We put them in a safe zone and we allow this to happen, and then we grow older because that's where the problem is now. And I'm finding this become prevalent now. Daughters who are much older now, people who have, families in their 50s, 60s, who hate their mothers, but now they can't do anything about it because the mother is too old. Ugogo
My
manje,
friend,
she's got Alzheimer's now. You can't go to her and say, but mom, what you did was wrong, because she can't understand.
listen, let me tell you, that is a typical situation, the one that I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And I've never thought about it that way. That's why, like, as you're talking, I'm thinking, shucks, this is what was happening with my friend. Because for me, I came to realize
Yeah.
how bad their relationship was when I was in a
When you were
room
able to
with,
actually
with both
see-
of them.
yeah.
So now I could see both sides of the story, and I could see that the mother is a bit harsh.
There's
to
something
this
very
one.
toxic this
You know,
side. Yeah.
there's something going on there. As a result, my friend now was very mean to the daughter.
Of
to her daughter,
course.
right?
That's where it goes.
And then, like, as time went on, there was talk of previous abuse that people had experienced, both of them, from previous situations, and now things were coming up. But now the mother had businesses, and as time went on, she lost all her business. Now she had to move in with the daughter.
Okay. Ooh.
The daughter is in a toxic environment because the mother does not want to recognize that she has a problem.
Yeah.
But the daughter can't kick the mother out of the house.
You see that
She
exactly.
has to live with it.
You see, that's exactly it.
She has
those
to live with it.
those people that we can't, we actually cannot make them account. We
For
can't.
their behavior.
We can't make them account even to ourselves, let alone to themselves, let alone to go to a person and say, you abused me. But you can't reconcile it in your
head,
own
it
mind.
doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make
Makes
sense
no
for me. How
sense.
can my mother, it
Be-
becomes such an in and out situation for you. Guti, really though, was she abusing me?
Yeah.
And
You
on that
excuse it.
note, I want us to put a pause. I want us to come back to this one. So don't go anywhere. Welcome back. And before the break, we were talking about, an angle of abuse that we've never looked at as women because, it's always been natural for us to look at people abusing us from a distance, an uncle or a neighbor or a stranger, and I think it's, it's much easier for us to accept when it's a stranger, but it becomes difficult even for our brains to actually process when it's somebody so close to your heart. And before the break, we were talking about mothers and how, the abuse sometimes that we get from our mothers and also now eventually give to our daughters, it goes unnoticed.
It's irreconcilable.
Because we don't see and we don't make account of the abusers that are closely linked to us.
And I think it's more an issue of, first of all, I'm picking up 2 points. One, think in the case of this friend of mine, if at all you were to raise that issue, can you imagine how uncomfortable the household would be? Now your humble abode is just this toxic place,
Battlefield.
a battlefield where you don't even want to come home from work.
Yeah.
Two, this person raised you. You think she sacrificed all these things for me. Don't. I could never. Like I couldn't. Your brain can just not do it.
Let's go to that one. I owe her.
I owe her.
She stayed in that marriage with an abusive man because she was thinking of me. So now
she
you are
possibly was.
actually paying her by allowing her to abuse you. That's a big one. You are actually paying her to abuse you. And that one has to sink, because if we are going to eradicate and deal with abuse properly, we need to go to these parts. We can't just put placards up and go man are trash, and not to belittle the abuse that comes from men to women. But if we want to get rid of the entire scope of abuse, we have to look at the entire scope and go to these places that we don't like to. We don't like to go and deal with. So, I think now many of us can already see traits and can take notes. Uguti, maybe let me go and look at this.
Yeah.
Let me go and look at this, because it does catch up with you.
It does.
You may say now that you can deal with it. You may say now that, I can just forget it and move on. Trust me, as an older woman, it comes back to you.
Either way.
The abuse of your mother comes back to you, but now it will be too late for you to actually go to your mom. Because think of that woman now who can't go to her mom because the mom has Alzheimer's. Nothing makes sense.
What can she do?
What can she do? But that means that, because now she's even so angry, she's saying that she doesn't want to take care of her, number one. Number two, she says she's not going to bury her.
Do you know this story? Actually, I was following some of Oprah's road shows shortly before the lockdown. And she told a story about how her mom abused her, right? And only came back into her life when she was rich,
Yes.
right? So
Like
now,
Tyler Perry, actually, yeah.
yeah. And then, she also had a younger sister who was also abandoned by the mom, and then came back into the picture later on. Now the mom
saw
is
that.
sick, and guess who's taking care of her? The daughter who she had initially abandoned.
Yeah.
Right? So the daughter is there one time, and Oprah is dealing with a lot of issues of rejection
Yeah.
and abuse and all of that. Her mom now, the doctors call her and they're like, listen, this girl's about to die. If you need to make peace, make peace. She says, I go there to the hospital, I sit there and I talk. I do what I know best, pay everyone to make her feel comfortable, buy gifts, blah, 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 because that's me. And I'm thinking, that's my closure. I don't need to talk to her about it. Let me leave it. She walks away. And then she's going to do another show somewhere else, but she has no peace because she knows this person's going to die and I would not have dealt with the situation. It's going to stay with me now while she's gone.
Imagine.
She says, like, in the middle of that session, I take a private plane back, get there, and she looks like she really looks like she's about to die.
Yeah.
She sees who I am, she understands, but she can't talk. She says, I decided I sang a song.
To the mom. She sang a song,
sang
to,
a
the
song
mom.
to the mom.
Okay.
She called a friend of hers, pastor, whomever,
All
a
right.
big pastor, and
Okay.
then she asked him to deliver a sermon, and then she prayed.
She prayed
Oprah prayed
for the mom.
for the mom.
Okay.
And in the prayer said, I
forgive you for. So I think now
I
we
forgive
go
you.
to that part of making people account, because remember, it's not about the person saying words. It's about you actually doing the transaction of accountability
Yeah.
in your own brain, because what is happening there is that Oprah was validating the abuse that
Yes,
she
she
knew.
said, it happened.
It happened.
Now what?
And now I can say it in front of her. that it happened by saying, I forgive you. Because then when she says, I forgive you, she's meaning you did something to me that was not supposed to be done.
As a result, the mother died shortly after that.
She released the mother as well. But can you see how important this is? Because imagine if she died before that happened.
Exactly.
She would have had this open wound now that doesn't heal because the person who's connected to the wound is no longer there, you know? And I know women, we are scared to tackle this
deal
part
with these
because
things.
it's your mom, you
Sure.
know? It's your mom. I mean, it's
your
your day
mom,
one.
You know?
Your mom is your day one, but look at how it's affecting you and look at what it means for your future.
Yeah.
But also, can you see what happened in this? This is a brilliant example that you've made. Oprah, in her closure, she actually released the mom,
mother.
which means maybe your movement, you're going to deal with this, will actually release your mom too,
next
because perhaps your
person.
mom knew that she abused you too, but she doesn't know how to approach you.
Oh goodness! And sometimes it doesn't even have to be a situation where it's a long-term abuse where every day she was saying.
No,
It can be one.
It can be a one
incident
incident, but
that changes your life. You know that she
Because,
did.
yeah.
You know that she did, and you might find that she even feels guilty about what she did, but because we swept it under the carpet, she thinks everything is fine. It's
Exactly.
hunky-dory, let's move on.
Exactly. So yeah, I think the reason why we opened this one up more is so that we can give women practical examples so that they can also, without going into Oprah's story,
Yes.
but look into
your
yours,
own
so
life.
mirror yours in what we're talking about. And now swiftly moving to the narcissist in me.
Myself now.
And what I mentioned earlier, Uguti, the title of my book stems from that. Uguti, I fell in love with my abuser. And a lot of people, when they read
don't
this, they
understand it,
misread it, they think, is it a husband?
Was the
Or
husband
is it
abusing
an
her?
abuser specifically? It's not about a specific abuser, but it's about how I actually wore the abuse. And I believed the abuse so much that I became my own abuser.
Goodness.
Right? Because in my book, the first story you get is the story of being raped at the age of 5, right? But then
As
after
the book
that,
progresses, because there's a lot
Because-
more that happens.
because
after
that was the last time I saw that person, but the abuse continued. So who is carrying the abuse forward when the abuser is no longer there? So that's what I want us to go to, when we come back from this break. So don't go anywhere. Welcome back, and you are still watching Chatting with Sarahina. And before the break, we were talking now about the narcissist in me. So what we're talking about today is abuse, right? And like I said earlier, when we are talking about women, you can't, ignore or avoid the topic of abuse. But we've looked at abuse from outside, for a long time. And it's good for us to do that. But there are, other aspects of abuse that we don't look at, which play into the plague of abuse. And that's what we were talking about earlier as well, Uguti. A person as close as your mother,
Yeah.
you can never allow your brain to actually see them as somebody who is a perpetrator. Because let's say your mother was being abused at home, and you've always seen your mother as a victim needing to be protected. When she becomes the perpetrator, you can't reconcile that in your mind. But now, we moved to the me abuser. When I actually start abusing myself, when I take the ropes from my rapist and I start abusing myself going forward. And I mean, I want to make such a, it's such a small example, but it speaks volumes.
Yeah.
Nail biting. And getting to a point where you don't just nail bite, you actually bite the skin. And where that comes from, and how it becomes a habit that you later have to fight now, but the root cause of that. Because that's self-mutilation. If you look at it, if you want to give it a different name, it's self-mutilation.
Yes.
And self-mutilation is
Can
abuse.
never be okay.
It's exactly like femicide. When somebody is actually, butchering a woman's body, you are butchering
Yourself.
your fingers when you are doing that. That's self-abuse.
And it's psychological.
It's psychological. But now, you take it from that. Ukuthi it can move to a bigger scope. And that's where you find people who cut themselves next, right? The cutting, you can't move the cutting away from the nail biting because it's very small here. I mean, it's biting the nail. But next, because you don't feel the pain when you're doing it. You get so used to the pain that you don't feel it. And then next, you are able to cut yourself and not feel the pain and keep cutting yourself until it becomes worse. So we are looking at that abuser now, the narcissist in me, the abuser in me, and how that one is formed, because your abuser was at age 5. Why are you still being abused later on in life?
And I think that's a tough one. That's a tough one because, again, it can go unnoticed. We can look at you and not see that there is something, there's internal turmoil that
Yeah.
actually is being expressed outwardly.
Yeah.
You know, another example would be from the abuse becoming promiscuous.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a violation on your body.
On your own body.
That's a violation on
Oh
your
my
body.
word.
When you think you are a liberal sexual being,
And you actually are in charge.
you
Most of the
think you're
time
in
we
charge.
think we're in
Yes.
charge when we do
You
that.
think you're in charge. You can sleep with any man you want. You can sleep with 2 men a day.
And then discard of
you
them.
can, you know, it's nothing. Whereas your soul is dying.
You're brutalizing.
And now you're adding to the already issues that are there. There's soul ties now, there's STDs, there's all these things, there's feelings of rejection because now even men know that, okay,
This
I'm
one
not
I
gonna
just
get
go there
anything.
and yeah.
I'm not gonna get anything from this one. And that's a tough one because, like you're saying, you think you are in control.
Of course.
You
I mean,
think you've got this and you are the Don and who can play man. You think you can play man.
but
That time you are being played, girl.
but isn't that then the myth that allows us to have abuses go unnoticed?
Exactly.
Is when we think we're in control.
Yes.
When we are thinking we're in control.
Because you even get into that situation trying to be the strong woman who could not be the strong child. Right?
Oh, that one is a huge one.
I got it from you.
That one
actually.
is a huge
I've
one.
heard you saying something to that line, to those lines. You are trying to be that strength you could not be when there was power that was taken away from you.
Exactly. And now that power, you are taking it back because you are telling yourself that, oh, I'm going to have my vengeance.
I'm gonna show them.
I'm going to show them. But what you are actually doing is you are doing exactly what they did to you on a bigger
on
scale.
a bigger scale.
On a bigger scale now, because they were just coming to you and you know, in and out. You are with you 24/7, which means you are abusing yourself each and every moment of the day because that's your reality.
That's your reality.
You know, and the truth of the matter is that when we do all sorts of things, promiscuity, drunkardness, you know, those moments where you are alone with yourself.
Yes. Because self will always be there. Like there is nothing you can do about that.
Can't run away from that person.
When you are sitting there at midnight staring in the ceiling and
the truth
cannot,
comes.
The truth comes.
Then you realize how much of an abuser you are.
You are.
And that's why tomorrow you have to put on a mask.
Yeah.
Because you know the abuser that is inside. But that abuser is the one that actually opens up for other abusers.
To
Have you
come
ever
in.
heard a woman who says, what is wrong with me? Do I attract abusers? Is it written on my forehead? Because
is.
if I've been raped once, I know I'm going to be raped next.
Again.
Like, why is it something that is written on? And I mean, I talk about it in the book as well, that was not the only, you know, sexual abuse that I went through at 5. It happened again. Now, the question is, why is it written here? I think there is something that happens to us, right? When we come from abuse, or when we come from, you know, trauma like that, we assume the abuser's character.
Okay.
Remember what abuse is. Abuse is an exertion of power, right, on another. It's an abuse of the right and actually exerting power over the other. So now an abused person feels like a victim. And the only thing that could help them and save them is if they could be powerful too.
To move from
And
victim
who
to
does an abuser know as power and a victim know as powerful?
the abuser?
The abuser. So the abused, the victim actually mimics their abuser. They actually mimic their abuser in their quest for power. And this is what happens if we don't look for power through healing.
Healing.
If we don't look for power through healing, we
Healing.
actually become abusers ourselves. Have you ever heard the quote, hurt people,
Hurt
hurt people?
I know.
It's because you say, I can do it better than you. What you've done to me, I can
I
show
can
you
do
that I'll
it.
do it better than
I
you.
can do it.
Doesn't that happen in marriages
It
as well?
does.
When
It
when a husband has been abusive for years and the roles change,
Sure.
and the woman is in the
Now
power
becomes-
seat, and the woman says, I'm going to
I'm
show
gonna
you
show
that I
you."
can do it better than you, my darling.
Mm.
And I mean, I've met women who even say, he thinks he can cheat. I can actually
Wait
give him
for-
lessons of cheating, right? But we don't realize that we've actually
Assumed
impersonated
that
and actually taken the
abuse-
character of the perpetrator.
Mm.
And we think it's power.
We think it's power.
We think it's power.
Gandhi, you are taking away more power from yourself.
You're taking away from yourself because you don't allow the victim to heal so that you can become the overcomer, the survivor afterwards. You can never be a survivor of rape if you haven't dealt with the victim
The
of
actual
rape
victim.
or abuse, of any kind of abuse. If you've been an abuse of financial, a victim of financial abuse, emotional abuse, if you don't deal with that victim, you cannot say you are a survivor,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And just by assuming a perpetrator's character,
it doesn't go in.
no, you didn't survive anything, right? So for me, I think it is important for us now to make this abuser account the me one. And actually for me to be able to say sorry to myself.
To myself.
Because now we're going to
exactly.
move into that forgiveness thing. And
Exactly.
and have you ever seen how women hate the topic of forgiveness?
Because it's a tough one.
It's a tough one, but because we want to start it with external people. There's the
Can't do.
first person you need to forgive, me.
Yeah.
And when you are able to forgive the abuser that you are able to actually give forgiveness to the
To-
next abuser, right?
Goodness.
So I
That's
don't know.
power.
I'd like to hear from you now. Your ending was because I know this one is heavy. I can see you.
It-
This
like,
one is a heavy
um,
one, but I want to hear from you. What are your views and what are your thoughts and your ending thoughts actually?
For me, I think it's a part of healing. It's a journey of healing. Like getting to a point where you kind of like change the roles. Now you are the abuser. It's part of the process, and it's possibly a process that you probably need to go through.
Yeah.
So what you need to do at this point in time, when you find yourself in that position, forgive yourself.
Yeah.
Forgive yourself. Don't be hard on yourself. It's nothing that you did. It's part of the process.
Sure.
But after that forgiveness, seek healing, whether through counseling,
healing.
whether through prayer,
Yeah.
whether through speaking to someone.
Seek healing.
Seek healing.
Seek healing. Seek help. Thank you so
help.
much. Thank you so much for that end, and we'll see you next time.
Definitely.
Okay. So, as my co host said, seek help. That is how you are actually going to overcome this abuse that we've spoken about today. Seek help. Go and speak to somebody that you trust to say to them that you don't know where to start, but you want to start. That's how we are actually going to start the healing journey from the abuse that we feel. Now, there is something else that I wanted to end with today. Jesus, he faced all sorts of abuse. He faced abuse from his family, from the people that he loved, from people from church, everybody. But why was Jesus never a victim of abuse? Why was Jesus never victimized, even though he felt abuse and he actually got abuse? It's because he decided, he took the power to say that you can do whatever you want to me, but I will never allow myself to fall at your knees and be your victim. He told Satan that even though you can shred my body and you can do whatever you want to my body, what you can't touch is my soul. My ladies, no one can touch our souls. They can rape us. They can touch our bodies. They can do whatever they want to us, but our souls belong to us. No one can rape our souls. No one can abuse our souls. And if we can start our healing journey from that power point of our souls, I promise you, we've already won this battle. Thank you so much for being part of this conversation, and we look forward to you joining us in the next episode. Goodbye.